Hey guys, welcome to Bookster Wellness. I'm your host, Klay S. Williams, and we're excited for today's show. We're joined by Leora Edu. She is the author of Goddess on the Go, Rituals to Help You Slow Down and Slay. But before we get into the actual interview, we're taking your questions and your comments live, so be sure to leave any feedback or any thoughts that you're having. We would love to include you in the show.
I'm really curious, when you sat down, you used the word inclusion and inclusivity and not diversity.
Yes.
Why did you specifically use that?
So
It seems like now there's such a huge shift in hip hop to like leaving a legacy and creating that kind of work that you want to leave behind. What do you think your legacy will be?
First chapter of the book, you really go there. You talk about your different life experiences that even led you to that. Can you share with our audience why that was important to be so transparent? On page 148, again, we're talking about It's Grief, the dance of self-discovery through trauma and loss. I was reading this last night and I found this just so incredibly moving. You say, while moving through the many phases of grief and trauma, it's helpful to have a complete picture of who you are and what you can emotionally endure, while also gaining an understanding of your limitations and strengths. I think that is so empowering because so many times we have this idea that if we are not being able to face our grief, or if we're not being strong with who we are as a person, there's something wrong with us. Right. So it's kind of like this is a bridge to connect people in a way I've never thought about like that before. Yeah, just for our social media crowd, we have Laura, and she says, I love your earrings. I really think that's a big point because in this day of social media and the numbers and you having to be able to share your story with publishing companies and different media, entertainment rituals, you have to have X amount of numbers, and you really came out and shared something that was just deeply unique for you. So what are the 5 areas that this book is centered around, and why did you choose those areas? And to be able to connect within. I saw this morning on your Instagram page, Goddess on the Go 1, and you talked a lot about having that time to set aside for yourself. And if that requires you getting up earlier, you actually do that. Can you tell our audience why that is important? And plus, you've been so incredibly busy with the release of this book, and I have to tell you, I read this book in 2 days, and it literally is the quintessential essence of how I started my own fitness journey. But before we delve into the specifics of this book, how did you get your start in the fitness space? We look forward to having you on our next episode of Bookster Wellness. I'm your host, Klay S. Williams, signing off.